Welcome to our Good Friday service. As you can tell, we're doing this online. I continue to be in prayer for the world and for our nation, for our state as we go through this situation with the virus. I know there's different information, different news sources about it. All that we know as a church is that we're going to be as careful and as cautious as we can be, but we know in the end that God has control over everything. And so just continue to be careful out there and continue to be with one another. On behalf of myself and my family, we are truly missing to see. We are truly missing everybody right now, not getting able to see people. I look forward to the day where I can shake your hands and give you a hug and look you in the eyes, look at your face one day, and hopefully we'll continue to look at it week by week, but hopefully soon, as soon as we get the okay and we feel comfortable doing it, we'll start meeting with one another. But we're going to continue to do this online service with one another. Good Friday, it always seemed like it was a weird title to name a day because there was nothing good about it from the aspect of Jesus Christ. If you look at the life of Jesus Christ during this week from the triumphal entry into Good Friday, he encountered so many difficult things and so many of the terrible things of humanity. We see the woman who comes and anoints Jesus with oil. What happens to the disciples? They get mad at her because she's wasting something. So instead of seeing this as a wonderful worship to Jesus, they see it as we could have done so much with that money. Jesus Christ telling his disciples that they would stumble, that they would fall because of him. Peter came out and said, well, Jesus, if it's meant for everybody to stumble, rest assured I will not stumble. And Jesus tells him, you will turn your back on me. We see arrogance there. We see the sense of self-pride there. We see Judas. Judas was somebody that out of all the disciples, he's probably the most disenfranchised. And there he realized that Jesus was not going to continue, that Jesus was not the military leader that everybody thought that he was going to be. And there Judas realized that Jesus was indeed going to die on the cross. He betrayed him to so many things that he went through. By Isaiah 53, verse 3, says this about the coming Messiah. He was despised and rejected by others, a man of suffering and familiar with pain. Here's a list of the things that happened to Jesus Christ. He was betrayed by Judas. He was abandoned by his disciples. He was disowned by Peter. He was arrested with no evidence. He was mocked by his captors. He was beaten and blindfolded. He was verbally abused. He was tried before the religious leaders and before Pilate and Herod. He was mocked and ridiculed again. He was condemned by the mob. He was sentenced by a man who proclaimed that he was innocent. He was flogged with a lead-tipped whip. He was stripped. He was crowned with a crown of thorns. He was mocked and taunted again. He was spat on and teased with a stick. He had to carry his own cross until somebody else was forced to help him because he could not take it anymore. He was given wine mixed with bitterness to drink. He was nailed to the cross. Soldiers threw dice to basically find out who would take over his possessions, his clothing. Passerby shouted abuse and mocked him from the cross. The religious leaders mocked him from the cross. His side was pierced by a spear. As we look at the cross, it's easy for us to just kind of look at it as this little innocent thing. It's easy for us to look at it as a piece of jewelry that we want to wear. It looks pretty. We got one out in the front yard right now. It kind of looks pretty to look at. Make no mistake about the cross. The cross is meant to transform us. It's supposed to change us. One of the things I love about Jesus Christ is that all during this, Jesus was full of grace and mercy as this was going on. Humanity did all of these things to him, but yet it's almost like Jesus Christ was saying, I am allowing this to happen. You are not in control of this situation. I am doing the will of God. What you mean for harm, God is going to make good out of this. Church, Good Friday reminds us that we are saved from our sins. Good Friday reminds us that even though we don't deserve it, even though we deserve hell and punishment, we deserve eternity separated from God, Good Friday reminds us that our God is full of grace and He is full of love. There is no sin too big for God. There's no mistake too big for God. Good Friday tells us our God is still in control. And so it's my prayer that as you reflect and as you meditate on this Good Friday, just remember that this was God's plan. Isaiah chapter 53, verse 10. Yet it was the Lord's will to crush him and cause him to suffer. And though the Lord makes his life an offering for sin, he will see his offspring and prolong his days, and the will the Lord will prosper in his hand. Jesus Christ dying for our sins. What a wonderful day this is. What a truly wonderful Good Friday this is. Church, reflect, meditate, pray, read Scripture. But let us be people who celebrate the goodness of our God. Have a good Easter, and I'll see you at our Easter online service.